So the gentleman is doing horrific things under a blanket, and now he's running for Congress.
Because, I mean, this Democrat, as Trump might say, as a pedophile, central casting.
This guy's running for Congress?
She's a Democrat for New York 4. And she's saying abolish the 13th Amendment. Again, the amendment that put an end to slavery in this country.
She's like the one Democrat who's actually intellectually consistent. Like, we've known since Abe Lincoln told Democrats, no, slavery's actually over. They've been mad about it and they've never let it go. And she's actually being honest.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, it's time for Hack Madness.
We created 65, there's a playing game, of the worst liberal hacks. And we put them head to head. And you, dear listener, and everyone on X will vote who are the worst liberal hacks in a tournament to hold them accountable.
I have been a physician for 35 years, and sadly have had a front seat to witness the decay and decline of the health insurance industry. There has been systematic denial and delay of care. There's been abuse with the Medicare Advantage plans, deceiving and extorting taxpayer dollars. You guys own PBMs, you own pharmacies, you own health agencies, physician groups. Good God, you own a bank. I have had patients cry in my room. I have had physicians cry to me, throw up their hands in disgust, and quit because of actions of our health insurance industry. You are killing people who are trying to get health care. You have put profits above patients, and you have put profits above those who care for patients.
Learn more at americansforopengovernment.com.
In America, parents call the shots for their families, not bureaucrats. But the so-called App Store Accountability Act puts your child at risk. This bill requires app stores to collect children's sensitive personal data while taking away power from parents over how their child's data is handled by tech companies. Parents should get to decide if their child's age is shared with apps, not politicians. Parents should attest to their kids' ages, not turn over birth certificates to tech companies. Congress, don't put kids at greater risk online and box parents out of making decisions for their families. Tell your lawmaker to put parents first. There are better ways to keep kids safe. NetChoice is dedicated to making the internet safe for free expression and free enterprise. Learn more at netchoice.org/keep app stores safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Fun time Friday. Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program. It is going to be a fun time because it is Hack Madness. We've got this in this very show where you will have the selection show. You want to do a quick reminder, Smug, of everybody who hasn't experienced Hack Madness?
So this is the thing. It's probably the most fun you'll have all year. This tradition started over 5 years ago.
Yeah, it did.
At this point, it became kind of like just the best conservative powwow online where we created, it's March Madness. It's 65, there's a playing game, of the worst liberal hacks. And we put them head to head. And you, dear listener, and everyone on X will vote who are the worst liberal hacks in a tournament to hold them accountable. And it's amazing because of, over the years, the number of angry messages I get from the journos and whoever is named and shamed on this list, because that's what this is about. It's fun, but it's about accountability.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And everyone has the best time voting for this. It's become an annual tradition. It's like an unofficial holiday in March.
It is.
And for listeners and viewers, you also get to participate in it. You don't just vote. You can also submit your bracket. So stick tuned for us to go through the selection show.
Exactly.
Because you're going to find out where you can submit your own bracket and play along with all of us.
There are a lot of other shows, a lot of other media outlets who have tried to replicate what we have done here, but nobody has ever been able to top it because this is the place where you go to find the fun.
and I'm going to call them out by name. So the Pod Bros tried doing for 1 year March Badness.
Oh yeah.
Which is the lamest shit ever. And they got like 4 votes per bracket because their audience is all, they've got all this venture capital money that tried propping them up, but no one cares about what they do.
Let's
no
buy
listening.
advertising and likes.
That's it. And no one cared, and they're a bunch of losers. And when you have your house on Architectural Digest, like Favreau did, everyone realizes you're not a progressive. You're just trying to cash in on that audience. And so to say people have tried to replicate what we have, there is no substitute for March.
You don't think badness?
Pathetic.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Hack madness is a thing. And congratulations to Joey Brackets over at Fox News, who's going to enter the most important phase of his year, which is covering...
The original bracketologist.
Yeah, he's really the Adam Schefter of this craft.
He is.
You know what I mean? Like, this guy covers it start to finish and has for years and understands this in a way that few others would.
Yeah, 100%. But we're going to give you a little tapper because I think there are some things that have happened over the last few weeks that just put a finer point on the decision-making that voters will ultimately have in the 2026 election. And it starts out with the fact that, Democrats are pretty weird.
It's become very clear.
Like real weird. And you have the whole Abby Spanberger situation where they're like, no, I'm normal. And then they get into office and they're like, wow, that's weird. Like, taxing dog walkers and mattresses seems like a strange decision. So you have to kind of sort through that. And look, anytime you're an incumbent party in power, as Donald Trump and Republicans are, there's dissatisfaction with everything. Like nobody's ever satisfied with their lot in life. Like you want more, you want everybody to accomplish everything they can do. There, checks and balances and the whole government. Like there's a level of enthusiasm in midterm elections that is important about turnout and everything else. But the opposition is not irrelevant. And what it is that Democrats are presenting, fellas. Oh boy. For our listeners, well, let's just start with Talarico, who, if you haven't spent any time actually examining this guy, my goodness, it's all over online, but here's the latest. Clip 1.
We have, I think, heard more and more issues of animal welfare. I think not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but also it's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption and that we try to respect animals in all aspects of society. And so I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. So we are only buying vegan products from our local vegan businesses. Some of you may know Big Nona's. They were little Nona's, and then they opened up brick and mortar, so another Big Nona's. But we just got our pizza from there today. And so the point is that I think all of us, not just policymakers, but everyone has to take personal responsibility in this effort.
Okay. All right. So in case it wasn't enough for you all, to get his biblical interpretation that why abortion is great on demand, or that Jesus is trans, which he's also done. Now he's a non-meat guy because they contribute to climate change. This is the mainstream alternative that Democrats have fielded.
This is the regular guy who's going to win Texas.
Just a regular Joe. He's just like one of us. He likes God, ladies and gentlemen. He talks about God. But so he's just one of us.
But he doesn't like meat. He's made that very clear in that statement. Wolf, can we put that just like a screenshot of his presentation back up? We don't need to look at the video, but I just wonder if the tufted grain leather behind him, is that fit with the vegan theme he was going with?
The tufted leather.
I just appreciate he's still wearing a mask. This is in 2022.
Yeah.
Wait, is COVID over?
COVID was definitely over in Texas, I can tell you that.
Well, I'm not sure it ever started in Texas, but it certainly did for people like James Talarico, who decided to campaign fully masked, talk about how, well, meat's bad.
So I'm going to go even further. I'm going to make James Talarico my hobby horse this cycle, and also North Carolina. We need to win the North Carolina Senate seat, my hometown of Raleigh. We need to show up and win North Carolina. But James Talarico is such a fraud because everyone read between the lines. He's very litigious, and Chuck Schumer's protecting his little baby boy out there in Texas. I think James Talarico likes the meat.
Oh, I knew
Oh, you think he's being disingenuous?
I think
there.
he's scared to admit
to stand up to
that
the vegans.
he likes the meat.
He's telling a lie.
Well, no,
I
there's
think
living a
I think
lie.
he's a liar and he's living a lie. I think Talarico loves the meat. I think he get enough of it, but he feels bad about it and he thinks he can't get elected if he tells everyone that he loves the meat.
no Smug.
And
Smug,
Chuck
there's
Schumer's
evidence.
willing to sue us if we tell the truth about Talarico.
There's evidence to support this. Talarico put up a tweet of him eating one of those big dinosaur beef ribs.
Yeah.
About how much he loves,
I
loves the meat.
think Talarico
off the
loves
bone.
eating the meat and he loves the bone. I think it's very clear, and his team and Chuck Schumer are very litigious if we were to tell you guys about how much he loves the meat and filling his mouth with the bones. He's a big fan of that kind of thing, and I welcome our audience to do a search on your favorite search engine or your favorite social media site, and you'll find a lot of things that I think are worthwhile bringing up. But his team is very litigious. It's almost like they're trying to live a lie, like Talarico, who I believe loves the meat.
Well, he claims to be vegan.
Well, he claims to be vegan, and of course, he's pledged a vegan campaign. Mm-hmm. But
He's put out plenty of messages indicating that he is vegan.
our very own Comfortably Smug has said he loves the meat.
Yeah,
And,
I'll stand by that.
We will find out in due time because Senate races, as you know, exposing.
It's a funny thing. The truth comes out.
It is very, very funny. All right, so he's not alone, by the way. There's a New York Post article about a Dem challenger in the Texas House that, he starred in his own bizarre music video. And he had an interesting role there, fellas. You think of like Courtney Cox when she first showed up in a Bruce Springsteen, of course, the star Friends, the massive show, and like she became an A-list. And she got her start in a music video where she was dancing with Bruce Springsteen. And it happens with people. They get their early start in a music video or whatever. But it does matter what role you play.
Right. Like backup dancer, love interest.
Yeah, this fella, he played a pervert.
No.
Yeah,
No
that was
way,
the role.
dude.
They're like, hey, you've got a pervert to play. Clip 2.
Oh, my God.
Wait, what is this? What? Oh my God!
No
Oh my God!
way, dude.
What?
No way.
Wait, this guy's running for Congress?
Oh, yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
so
Tejano singer Bobby Polito won the Democratic primary earlier this month in the state's 15th congressional district as a moderate in the race who's taken nearly $1 million in contributions from the Blue Dog Coalition. That's the moderate Democrat. Remember, folks, no such thing as a moderate Democrat. And he focused on voters' economic concerns, border security issues, and local issues. That was how he got over the top, so to speak.
What's missing from his platform is chronic masturbation.
For folks who are listeners only, that video was a bit much. It's pretty wild. You're seeing it. Yeah, you're seeing an individual who's wearing a blanket on a plane. And
Can we play it again? Play it again.
This is stunning behavior.
Put the whole thing up again.
I don't want to see it.
Look at him here. There's just lipstick being applied to a man with a mohawk.
And the thing is
then
like,
there's masturbatory events happening under a red blanket. Notice the red blanket travels, by the way. It's the outside the plane. It's inside the plane.
It's more like
in
a
studio.
Snuggie.
This is the average experience flying Southwest. That's what's happening. So the gentleman is doing horrific things under a blanket, and now he's running for Congress. First off, Sábado Gigante is wild. Like I remember my day. If you're like a young buck, you're like, okay, we're gonna get some hot rods.
Couple of
I'll watch
trumpets.
Sábado Gigante. I can't understand what they're saying, but it's entertaining. The women are hot. This is things have changed. Times have clearly
You
changed.
didn't think that somebody'd be pulling their own trumpet.
It's a bit much. And the fact that, so the other thing is, and this always goes back to what Ashbrook says, I'm going to alley-oop to him. the mainstream media gets away with shit like this, candidates like this on the Democrat side can get across the line and win a primary and be the candidate in the general when they have shit like this that's out there, because the mainstream media will always hide the craziest shit about a Democrat.
They will.
Yeah.
They will if they are given proper assurances from the Dem establishment that this person is simply a vegan. This person has nothing to hide. This is the kind of person that we should put up in the general election. The mainstream media is like, thank you, Chuck Schumer. I will write whatever it is you want me to write. And
basically,
that's where we go to print.
And also, the video is wild because, like, if you just heard the music for our audio listeners, you're probably like, yeah, this is what I hear while I'm housing the chips and salsas waiting for my main dish at my favorite Mexican restaurant. You know, the music is, like, totally normal. The video is, like, out of control. Like, what are the lyrics even describing to be like, in the video, we're going to have a guy on an airplane. He's got a blanket hiding the horrific things happening. Like, that's a wild video.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely bizarre. And again, the masturbatory event lasts throughout. It's inside the plane, it's outside the plane, it's in front of a man, it's in front of a woman. Like, again, it's kind of the all-comers.
Like, what's the context for this situation of, like, so here's the treatment for the music video. We're going to have a guy on a plane. Like, is the song about, like, Southwest? Like, here's what it's like flying Southwest. You hop on the plane, everyone's giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
And this guy's having a hard time.
Yeah, trust us. He's going to be a congressman.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get there, so to speak.
I mean, I got to hand it to the director who, cast this role. You like that?
You got to hand it to him.
Because, I mean, this Democrat, as Trump might say, as a pedophile, central casting.
Yeah, central casting, no question about it. So again, we highlight this not just because it's hilarious that somebody's running for Congress who is a masturbatorium in public as a part of a music video, or that James Talarico doesn't like meat, which is in question.
We know that's a lie.
From Smug, is that like these are the kind of people that are running as Democrats. Like, these are their candidates.
Yeah.
When they try to pretend 6 months from now, after we get through primary season, like, well, we're just here to uphold America's norms. Think about the masturbatory.
Don't get lost in the sauce, folks. There's a lot of attempts to try to, like, demoralize Republicans. A lot of it, it's coming from inside the House. There's a lot of attempts to demoralize Republicans and be like, oh no, everyone gets sad and don't show up to vote. Wake up. Like, that's 100% an op trying to get these kind of sickos back in power.
Unless you want that guy sitting next to your 7th grader in school.
Seriously,
like,
look at Virginia. Look at what Abigail Spanberger's doing.
Yeah.
That's a warning.
So, all right, we're not done here. Most of us have come to the realization that the Constitution and our amendments have meant something over the years. There's different interpretations of things, and that's what we sort out through the Supreme Court and everything else. 13th Amendment is somewhat of an important one for this country. It abolished slavery in a lot of different ways in that, like a seminal moment. It turns out we fought a civil war over something like that. Pretty important demarcation in time. Well, there's a candidate in New York 4 that sees it a different way. Clip 3.
And the last thing I will say is remove the 13th. There's a constitutional law that legalizes slavery based on the fact of you committing a crime. That is unjust. That is not rehabilitation. That is not how we repair society. And it is not how we forgive someone for their mistakes.
I want to make sure that you understood what it was that this lady was saying. So her name is Kiana Biaria Anderson. She's a Democrat for New York 4. And she's saying abolish the 13th Amendment. Again, the amendment that put an end to slavery in this country because it left open the possibility of incarceration for people who commit crimes. And that, in her view, is slavery. And if you commit a crime and you are incarcerated, well, it's ratified right there in the 13th Amendment. So throw that whole thing out. Make sure that we don't abolish slavery in the United States of America, in large part because the pedophiles, murderers, thieves, rapists, what have you, are effectively enslaved.
Can I say, I think actually Kiana deserves some credit.
I do too.
She's like the one Democrat who's actually
telling it like it
intellectually
is.
consistent. Like, we've known since Abe Lincoln told Democrats, no, slavery's actually over. They've been mad about it and they've never let it go. And she's actually being honest, because this whole discussion that we have about no open borders, no letting illegal aliens run amok and commit crimes and steal American jobs. When they make arguments, Nancy Pelosi, and you hear these people of like, oh, well, who's going to clean our toilets? Who's going to pick our fruits?
Yeah.
They've never given it up. They're like, America can't continue unless we have a free labor force that is essentially enslaved. She's telling the truth, because that's what Democrats, that's why they shut down DHS. They want their free labor. They want their like low cost.
Yeah, but it's a
labor
roundabout version, and that the free labor
they're like
component is
they're like,
important.
why'd you take our slaves away?
But also,
They're still mad.
Rapists, are they so bad?
It's an incredible take.
I don't agree with her at all, but I'm just glad there's finally a Democrat who's actually read the amendments to the Constitution.
and that's the thing, is it's not like she was like, oh, I got the wrong number, I actually support the end of slavery. She's like, no.
Kiana sat back. She was like, I'm going to run for office. Let me find anywhere in this document where I profoundly disagree. I know.
Dude, that city elected
I know.
Mamdani.
Slavery.
She could still win. Like, that's the thing, is like when people think that things have gotten as bad as they're going to in New York City, no.
Folks,
no. It gets much worse.
This is just insanity.
Spoiler alert, it will get a lot
Insanity.
worse.
this is just a taste. Just a small taste. If we had 100 shows to do and we were on 24 hours a day, we couldn't possibly get to the end of the file on each and every Democratic candidate that you have. I don't care where you live. You could live in the reddest state, the bluest municipality. You're going to get shit like this.
And you don't even really need an Oppo book. Just put on C-SPAN and watch their floor speeches from the House of Representatives.
Just mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Mind-blowing stuff. So coming up when we come back, Stand Up Trump. You know who we love is stand-up comedy. He's back in action this week. He had a couple of absolute killers that we're going to get to right after this.
American energy is growing. With a renewed focus on American oil and natural gas, we're rebuilding our industrial strength and driving investment. Energy demand is rising, and the United States has the resources to meet it. Here's the challenge. If we can't build the infrastructure to move that energy, pipelines, transmission lines, and power plants, Americans won't feel the benefits. And while projects stall, China moves faster. Not because America lacks energy, but because Washington's permitting system is outdated and broken. Energy affordability depends on getting energy where it's needed, when it's needed. Yet critical projects remain stuck for years in delays and endless litigation. We have the energy, we have the workforce. Now it's time to build. Let's secure American energy leadership for generations to come. When America builds, America wins. Pass permitting reform now. Learn more at permittingreformnow.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
In America, parents call the shots for their families, not bureaucrats. But the so-called App Store Accountability Act puts your child at risk. This bill requires app stores to collect children's sensitive personal data while taking away power from parents over how their child's data is handled by tech companies. Parents should get to decide if their child's age is shared with apps, not politicians. Parents should attest to their kids' ages, not turn over birth certificates to tech companies. Congress, don't put kids at greater risk online and box parents out of making decisions for their families. Tell your lawmaker to put parents first. There are better ways to keep kids safe. NetChoice is dedicated to making the internet safe for free expression and free enterprise. Learn more at netchoice.org/keep app stores safe.
Okay, so one of the things that you, me, and basically everybody's appreciated about Donald Trump is the damn funniest guy in public life. Has been for years, even before he was president of the United States. He's just funny. And occasionally he uses the bully pulpit, the microphone as president of the United States, just make some jokes. about the people who are around him. Well, Speaker Mike Johnson found himself in a bit of the crosshairs on St. Paddy's Day this year, where I think President Trump made some assumptions about his ethnicity that, didn't pan out. And so this is his reaction of that in clip 4.
Kelly, I could say that about your sons. One's a boxing champion, they're like champions. Who would think from this one? It's got to be
Amazing.
I didn't know about your Italian roots either. I thought he was a super wasp. To me, Mike was always a wasp. Now I learned that this is serious Italian stuff. Well, that'll be good for you, I think. His image has changed a hell of a lot.
Dude.
That was Trump thinking that Mike Johnson was a super wasp, and we understand how somebody could come to that conclusion, only to realize he's actually Sicilian.
Yeah. It's the only thing our president was missing was a board.
And I got to be honest, I'm actually shocked. Like, I never thought Mike Johnson was.
I agree. Mike Johnson is not a name.
Doesn't
that you
strike
would
you
think.
as an Italian guy.
So actually, I'm going to take the opposite opinion here. All of this tracks.
Oh, okay.
100% that Mike Johnson is Italian.
You
This
think so?
guy has gotten so many deals done.
Yeah, deal
Mamma mia.
With a very slim Republican House majority, and he's done that in back rooms like a lot of Dons before him.
I don't think you're wrong. I get it. Like, there's a lot of folks out there online who are trying to make Republicans mad and fight each other. There needs to be a lot of credit due for Mike Johnson, who has like the hardest gig.
Totally.
The House is essentially just like, it's a madhouse. It's the craziest people ever. And you're trying to rally all of them together and get shit done. And Mike Johnson has done, that's got to be the worst. That's
we
the
had no
toughest job.
idea he was a member of the Cosa Nostra.
But maybe. But maybe, I mean, because I don't know these things. I'm not a Congress, guy. I'm not there on the Hill. Maybe if you're like, okay, guys, we're gonna have a meeting about getting this bill done. You show up with like some pizzas and ziti, you know what I mean?
Pizzas.
Because like, if you show up and you're trying to get my attention and get some work done, and you're like, I promise you, there's gonna be some good pizza. There's gonna be some good ziti. Is it ziti or
Ziti.
Ziti? You know what I mean? And like the garlic bread.
The garlic bread.
I'll show up to that meeting. I'll show up. You got some tiramisu? Maybe that's the edge that he's got. Because listen, this guy has been like air traffic control on getting the bills done. And no one expected he could do it. They're all like, oh, he's a Southerner. No one gets work done like a Southerner. But maybe Southern Italy. He's a Sicilian.
You're exactly right. Everybody's expecting like a run-of-the-mill Republican, but he shows up with endless breadsticks and salad.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you want out of a leader.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
He does look super wasp. You see the guy?
You think he drops the Olive Garden line? He's like, when you're here, you're family.
It's so good. Well, I mean, listen, he's not done there. He was also, obviously has to answer a ton of questions this week about operations in Iran. What are our allies? Great Britain's being a disaster, but there's NATO allies, and that was a little bit of a conflict. And so he was asked a little bit about France. Clip 5.
Yeah, I have spoken to him. He's been on a scale of 0 to 10. I'd say he's been an 8. Not perfect, but it's France. We don't expect perfect.
So he's talking about Macron there. And, they're basically like, well, is Macron, is he doing better than Starmer? What's the relationship? Have you had a conversation about ongoing operations in Iran? How helpful are they going to be? I was actually surprised. Like, the news value of it was the 0 through 10. And he says he's an 8. Like that, for Trump to say that about a European ally means the guy's being pretty helpful.
He's being helpful because, the French, given their proclivities towards surrender, need to be graded on a curve, and our president understands that.
Yeah, 100%. But then for him to just drop it's France.
It's France.
What a legend.
We're going to miss him, man. You got to appreciate what we have right now.
Enjoy it while we
Seriously.
can. The content is just 10
The
out of 10.
enemies of America are shuddering and patriots are in control. How can people be mad?
Yeah, and just laugh and have a good time every once in a while. You don't need to be so mad, you know? We don't need to repeal the 13th Amendment.
Holy! I still can't believe that.
Think about the state of things. Can we get that image back up of Trump at that meeting right now?
Wait, which one?
Look at that. You've got Mike Johnson, who is air traffic control, running bills through the House at like breakneck speed. And you've got Susie out there. Susie has run the most coordinated White House possibly in our lifetimes while fighting cancer. We've got a murderer's row.
I had no idea. I mean, look, Mike Johnson's been really good at what he does for the entirety of the time that he's been Speaker of the House. I had no idea it was actually Michael Corleone, though. I mean, that now we have, I think Trump alluded to
Southerners never get the credit they're due. I think that's the Mike Johnson thing.
Well, there's a little different
He deserves
thing.
his flowers.
There's a little different thing there. All right, so we're going to get to Hack Madness. If you deal with Hack Madness the way that we deal with Hack Madness, it means you need to have a couple of drinks and enjoy yourself and think and illuminate upon what all of the competitors are bringing to the table and make your choices wisely. But when you're doing all that, you could get carried away.
Yeah.
The best way to prevent any sort of problem whatsoever is Z-Biotics. It's the first pre-alcohol drink that makes a substantive difference in how you handle your night. We've done it here on the Ruthless Variety program, can vouch for it. You're going to love it. If it's your first drink of the night, boy, oh boy, you won't believe the results. Right, Smug?
That's the truth. So here's the thing is Z-Biotics, we stand with it because it works. It should be your first drink of the night. If you're out to celebrate, if you're out to have a good time, you first have a Z-Biotics, and it works. And the proof in the pudding is it's not dehydration that makes you feel bad after you've had a few drinks. It's actually these byproducts in alcohol that get broken down and make you feel bad.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And when we were putting together Hack Madness, we had to do a ton of research into the professional work and the writings of a lot of these people you're going to see. And boy, does that drive you to have to drink.
Yeah, it does. It does, because you have to read what it is that they say, and it's maddening. So you want a Z-Biotics. And what do we say about Z-Biotics?
Well, we always say there is no tomorrow without Z-Biotics today.
That's exactly right. So if you go to zbiotics.com/ruthless, you can learn more and get 15% off of your first order when you use Ruthless at the checkout. Z-Biotics is backed by 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason at all, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/ruthless and use code RUTHLESS at the checkout for 15% off. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, it's time for Hack Madness. This is the time we have all been waiting for. You've got spring in bloom. We are looking around, ready, willing, and able to have something to laugh about and something to make fun of. And ladies and gentlemen, Hack Madness is upon us. Fellas, just reactions before we get into the brackets.
I think the overarching story this year, the most important takeaway, is the shifting media landscape. The media has moved on. I mean, we're a prime example. If you want to get information, if you want to know what's happening, the most important sources, especially on the left, are no longer the mainstream media, which has lost a lot of ground. You've seen a lot of hacks leave their major media organizations.
Well, not to mention like the collapse of the Washington Post.
Totally.
I mean, you had like 100 perennial contenders that were in that bubble territory become unemployed over the last 6 months.
Much like NIL has disrupted the college basketball landscape in March Madness, the destruction of the liberal media apparatus, many of these scions of previous tournaments have been scattered to the winds.
Yes.
That has impacted our seeding today.
Yeah, and we have a brand new committee who is doing the seeding and who is doing the placement, and I'm very interested to see what they did this year. It might be different from years past, but we'll take a look.
Well, for those of you who are aficionados and you're returning to see Hack Madness, recall the way we do this is announce our number one seeds, and we'll go live on location to report how the crowds are reacting to these. And this might be a surprise. We had the first 2 or 3 years that all pretty similar, 1 or 2 seeds.
Perennial blue bloods.
Perennial blue bloods. Again, the shifting media dynamic that you gentlemen have talked about, it could play a role here. I want to go out to the liberal activist division, the number 1 overall seed, Don Lemon.
I'm here in a peaceful sanctuary where congregants eagerly anticipate the arrival of Don Lemon. Sacrilege is on the menu, and accusations of racism are expected by organizers, while Lemon celebrates his top seed.
Look, huge deal. Richly earned, but fired from CNN, doesn't have a mainstream outlet. Typically, that downseeds you in a lot of different ways. But when you come with a fall and winter, the way that Don Lemon has, in and of itself, like declaring himself a journalist when ultimately a court will be the ruler of that. This is a number 1 seed that you can't take for granted.
It shows a level of dedication. It's like, are you willing to drop hack takes, or are you willing to face felonies and hate crimes? Yeah. Like, Don Lemon he's elevated the game. It used to be like you're on CNN and you're saying some crazy shit. He's like, I'm going to show up in a church and commit hate crimes.
That's exactly right, Smug. I think invading a church with BLM activists is exactly the sort of track record and body of work that leads to a number 1 seed.
But look, he is not going to win this easily. He's facing Ana Navarro from The View and her own podcast called Bleep with Ana Navarro. This is a woman who wants to knock off Don Lemon. So I think this might be a little bit more competitive than people think.
We're going to get to the brackets here in a minute, but I will say the other number 1 seed in the division facing off in the Way Too Online division, a surprise, a big shocker.
Huge.
The first time that he's been a part of the tournament, let alone being a number 1 seed, SV Date.
I'm here in an empty room where even SV Date's closest ideological allies are more comfortable celebrating from afar. Just last year, it was unthinkable that a predictably low IQ reply guy could be regularly employed, let alone obtain a top seed. Yet his relentless pursuit of embarrassment has been rewarded by the committee in what will assuredly be the only recognition of his career. Back to you, fellas.
All right, so this guy's had a lot of backers. The White House is, firm believers in it. But if you've seen what it is that his body of work is since Donald Trump has been elected president, this is a guy who rises up the ranks. Could I have seen him as a 5 seed? Certainly. He was going to be a part of this year's tournament no matter what. Number 1 overall. What do we think?
So this is the thing with SV Date. His what gives him a leg up on the competition. In my opinion, I'm not a doctor. I think he's got a lot of mental health issues. He is so committed to the game. Like, this is a guy who will show up in your replies and fire off like 1,000 tweets, where it's like, if this was a family member you cared about, you're like, we got to seek professional help, friend. But for him, he's using it as his edge to get a leg up on the competition professionally. If you have anything, to the right of Bernie Sanders, there's a chance that SV Date has showed up in your replies with an insane take.
Well, and he just can't help himself, and it's that sort of dedication that leads to a number 1 seed. This is a man led like a moth to a flame to the worst take on Twitter every single day.
Yeah.
But once again, you look at a guy, if you just observe his body of work, he has wanted this number 1 seed, maybe more than anybody else in the tournament.
He's worked for it.
However, he faces a play-in game out of that number 16 that may present some challenges.
This is the thing. This is a wild play-in game. Usually, when
Let's
folks
not
are filling
get
out
into
the brackets,
the play. We want to reveal the
shocked.
bracket in a minute. We're just going to do the ones. But wait till you see. Wait till you see what we've got. We have a little preview for it. You're going to love every second of it. But we have to go to the fake news division and the establishment division before we do all of that. Fake news, richly earned. Ladies and gentlemen, Abby Phillips.
Apologies if it's hard to hear me, fellas. I'm over here on the set at Abby Phillips' show, which can only be described as a panel of liberal hyenas fighting over the scraps of their own reputation. Scott Jennings is absolutely beaming as he just shared the news with the Phillips camp. We have no doubt this news will be misreported by Abby and then half corrected tomorrow. Back to you.
Listen, I don't know. Much like Margaret Brennan was last year's champion and number 1 overall seed, that there has been a journo who has more deservedly earned and worked through a 365-day year to get to a point to be a number one seed more than Abby Phillips.
That's the thing. So, the quarterly ratings just came out, and we saw CNN is like a distant third. But what they have going for them is Abby Phillip. And we call her Abby Phillips because it makes her mad, apparently. So Abby Phillips has gone on night after night and had the worst takes possible. Everybody knows the only reason CNN is still afloat is because they got Scott Jennings showing up and being like, y'all are dumb. You're all terrible. But it's on her show. She's like, listen, I'm not only going to be wrong, I'm going to be loud about it. And she's built a career off of it.
Doug? No, it's absolutely true. I mean, basically, she runs the liberal Coliseum, and you got Scott Jennings down in there, and he's Russell Crowe trying to fight the Lions every night. And you got Abby Phillip, or Phillips, if she hates it that much.
Abby Phillips.
Is basically Claudius up there, and she doesn't know how to put her thumb up and down. She can't tell the truth. She makes up lies, and she just half corrections the day later.
Bingo.
Fair enough,
Dude,
Smash.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I think not since Sigmund Freud has anybody gathered and observed insanity quite as frequently as Abby Phillip.
Dude,
but
beautiful.
also, Freud was never overtaken by it. CNN quite frequently is overtaken by the insanity. I predict she's going to go deep here.
Oh, man, that's a big endorsement out of Smash. He typically has a finger on the pulse of the journo world. Take that advice for what it's worth, which is a lot in Hack Madness. The Establishment Division, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, Stephen Colbert.
Colbert HQ is an absolute pandemonium over his number one seed this year. The canceled late night host is officially off the air in May, and many people are saying this is a fitting swan song for an illustrious liberal hack. To celebrate, Colbert has lined up a guest list of Democratic politicians you've never heard of to sing his praises. It's exactly the sort of self-congratulatory farewell tour you'd expect from a number one seed. Back to you.
Huge and well earned. This is so I love being a part of the show because we have the courage to do the right thing. So many people think that like, no, Stephen Colbert is a comedian and he has his like late night comedy show. That hasn't been a late night comedy show in like a decade.
100%.
We know what that is. And James Talarico, huge fan of the meat. A lot of people know he's a huge fan of the meat. Used Stephen Colbert because he's a liberal hack, and that's why he's the number one pick.
I have to hand it to the committee on this one. Really, courage to put him number one overall. You know, there's going to be some
Huge
controversies. Going to be some controversies here
people
in the
will say
bracket.
he's not a day in, day out political guy, but if you look at the body of work and his association with the establishment of the Democratic
and his
Party,
impact,
and his interviews of people you've never heard of, just simply to try to expose them to a different audience for fundraising purposes, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, typically with these picks, you either have a lib journo or a left-wing activist. Very rarely do you have a press secretary for Chuck Schumer at a number one seed, and I think this guy could go deep.
That is well said. All right, it's time to march through the rest of these brackets. You're going to find out who these number one seeds match up against, and we start in the liberal activist division. Don Lemon, who's richly earned the number one seed, against what Smash talked about, Anna Navarro, a perennial contender. She's on The View. She's on CNN. This is somebody who's been a part of, I think, all 6 of the Hack Madness tournaments. She's facing off as the 16th seed, a very daunting matchup there. A little bit lower, one of the 2 winners of that is going to face off against Nicole Wallace. Big time MS Now, as they say. And an MS Now matchup against Jen Psaki.
Yeah, I think this matchup is very interesting, not just because you have 2 former White House press secretaries, because it pits a 4 p.m. hour against prime time 9 p.m. And I actually think Nicole Wallace is going to give her best, but Jen Psaki, we saw over last year, we saw the year before, she has some strength, and I do think Jen's going to win this one.
Fantastic analysis. The 5-12, if you think about it, a matchup rich for upsets over the years. Heather Cox Richardson against Joe Scarborough. It's one of those new media, old media matchups, Michael.
Yeah, Heather is new to the scene here. If you're familiar with podcasting and you watch other shows like ours, you may have seen her out there. It's basically the most harebrained left-wing podcast on the planet. You thought Pod Save America was bad? You don't have any clue. This woman is insane, and it's well-deserved here at the 5 seed.
So, number 4 against 13, Anna Kasparin. She's going against a Simone Sanders. Very formidable matchup there.
Yeah, I have a thought on this one because Anna Kasparian is 39 years old, and she is on a show called The Young Turks. But Simone Sanders is actually younger than Anna Kasparian.
Wait, are you for real?
I am by 3 years. So
Dude,
I think
that's great. I
think
would have never guessed.
I think youth wins this one. I think Simone Sanders.
So that's shocking. So my take on this matchup originally was because like Anna Kasparian has taken the like youth progressive wing of anti-Semitism and just run with it, right?
Yeah.
I did not know she was the older of that's stunning because like, shout out Simone Sanders. She's been a member of like the old guard establishment progressives for like a decade.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Anna Kasparian might be number 4 in our brackets, but she's number 1 in the hearts of Hamas. And I think that's why she gets on to the next round.
Could be.
Yeah, a couple of Hezbollah votes in there in between. Number 6, 11, we have Stephanie Ruhle, a big favorite of Comfortably Smug, against Eugene Daniels, the former president of the White House Correspondents Association, who's now a member of MS Now. Smug?
So I have a lot to say about this situation. I want to avoid lawsuits. So Stephanie Ruhle, a lot of people say she likes flying planes and the people who produce planes. She's kind of a fan of that situation. You can Google it and see whatever you want. Eugene Daniels is, in my opinion, an epitome of everything that is wrong with the modern media. This is an individual who's completely untalented, who has no gifts for actually bringing the truth to the public, which is ostensibly the job of journalism, but who's been just like uplifted because they're like, oh, Eugene, just hit a Google image search of this guy. They're like, oh, wow, he's wearing like platform boots and a rhinestone dress saying he's going to Beyonce concert. I think we should make him like the voice of the Washington Post. And this is how a guy becomes like the head of what's it with the big dinner, Ashbrook, that you love?
White House Correspondents Association.
That's the one. So like he loves this whole like media thing. And so they're like, yes, let's make this guy like the head of the whole association to celebrate journos. And Ashbrook claps along.
Well, we're going to move on. We're going to go 3 to 14. Mehdi Hassan, somebody who I feel like has not gotten enough love by this tournament committee in previous years, but he's in as a 3 seed, very high seed, but he's matched up against a extremely formidable 14 seed in Tim Miller of the Bulwark.
You always look for those early round matchups that are really going to define the tournament, and this is one I think everyone will have their eyes on because you got Tim Miller, former Republican, who is now like adopted all these left-wing ideas. You got Mehdi Hassan, who got a guy fired from CNN because he didn't like what he was talking about. I really think that this is one of the matchups that everybody needs to pay attention to. I don't know which way it's going to go.
I agree. I mean, look, ADSC is a big part of it. Blind partisanship is a part of it. But moral vacancy is also a huge part of advancing onto the Sweet 16, if not before. And Tim Miller has that in spades.
I want to go in on this in particular. So this is an incredibly difficult matchup. These are two titans because you have Mehdi Hassan, who is, basically spends his time running cover for terrorism. Like that's his whole thing. Is he's like, actually, America deserves all the terrorism possible. And then you have Tim Miller, who's a huntsman guy, a horrible guy. He's a very Talarico kind of guy. Like they strike me as the same thing. Morally vacant, will believe anything possible to try to get attention. And it's going to be up to the voters to decide this year.
It is remarkable. We have found here in this matchup is the traitor matchup. Mehdi Hassan, traitor to America. Tim Miller, traitor to Republicans.
Oh, interesting.
No, that's
who
good.
will move on?
Yeah, who will move on? A big mid-bracket showdown between two powerhouses. ABC's Sonny Hostin against Rachel Maddow, a 7-10 matchup. That one is going to also bring huge ramifications for the rest of this bracket.
Yeah, earlier in the preview, I was talking about how the committee has taken a different approach this year, and I feel like this is the first place we've seen that different approach play out. Rachel Maddow at a number 10 seed. I'm surprised. I thought she would be a little bit higher than that.
Well, I mean, I think the difference here in this seeding, Anna Navarro got a 16. She's the dumbest person on The View by a long shot. But she's not quite as shameless in all of her crazy takes as Sonny Hostin. I think it's well-deserved. I mean, the craziest stuff that comes out of that show, I believe, is Sonny Hostin.
The committee may have made the correct selection on that. You round out the bracket with a 2 seed, a big surprise for everybody, a first-timer here in Hack Madness. Jennifer Welch takes on perennial contender, Kara Swisher, fellas.
I think this is, part of why this bracket is so great this year is because it addresses the fact that the media landscape has completely shifted. You've had people like Kara Swisher who've been a liberal hack for 10 years, but it's like it's time for the old folks home. You've got the new guard, Jennifer Welch, who, listen, she's old in her own right, but she's crazy as shit. And that's what the left loves to eat up. You've seen her at like the Mamdani victory party. Like, this is an old lady who's crazy as shit, but she's embedded herself with like the modern Hamas youth.
It is interesting, in a lot of ways. Kara Swisher is sort of like the fullback going through the hole to clear out the defense to let the Jennifer Welch insanity flourish.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see just how much it does in this bracket.
Well, we got to switch over to the Way 2 Online, which is always one of our favorite brackets. It produces a ton of wild cards. Of course, SV Date has the number 1 seed who's he going to face off against. Wild card, we're going to have play-in game. What's that play-in game? Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Lizza and Olivia Newsy.
Clash of the Titans.
This one gets close to home. Obviously, we have covered this, chronicled this. We have talked about it ad nauseum on the show, and I feel like it's only fair that it's settled in a play-in game to face off against SV Date. I think Nuzzy is actually going to win this one. I do. I think that she has sort of the panache that Lizzo was sort of trying to reel back in.
Well, we know she'll do anything to win.
Oh,
well.
Can I be honest about that?
She's got the panache something.
I think she deserves credit because I think she has a lot more character than the modern left. Everybody knows what Olivia's about. She's made it clear. The left has basically decided they're going to try a Trojan horse like Abigail Spanberger. Nuzzy's put it out there. She writes in the book all the crazy shit.
Yeah.
She doesn't give a fuck. That's honest. I respect that. I think she should be voted in. Ryan Liz he's an old dog. He's been at this game for a while. You know what I mean? Like, he's lost a step.
A means to an end,
Nuzzy,
so to speak.
She follows me. My advice to you, keep trucking. Go for it. Don't give up.
A lot of ageism from Comfortably Smug today.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also she follows me, which I appreciated. They're going to, whoever the winner of this, and that's a tough matchup, is going to face Keith Olbermann, perennial contender.
Wow.
Against David French, who I think has distinguished himself in a way that previous years people hadn't heard of. They were unfamiliar with the hypocrisy. They didn't know that this guy was like a conservative whatever, and he just didn't like Trump. Now, particularly with the backdrop of Iran, this guy he's a big contender.
So I don't want to put my thumb on the scales, but folks, wouldn't it be fun to have Olivia Nuzzy and Keith Olbermann in the bracket? Because
it could happen.
Oh, I didn't even notice that was what we've done here.
This is art.
The tournament committee is really something.
The committee is very smart, and it could happen, Smug, but Olbermann has to get out of the first round. I mean, this is a matchup of the pretenders, a guy who pretended to care about sports versus a guy who pretended to be a conservative, facing off against each other to face... I think Olivia Nuzzy's going to beat SV Date. I really do.
Really?
I really do. I think they're. I think this is.
Date's a force.
Yeah, I think all he has going for him is he has a severe problem. Like, I think he's just a broken dude, in my opinion. I think Olivia would take him, dude. I think Olivia would take him. I think the selection committee was right because he's earned. Essentially, the left now is just like an insane asylum, which SV Date embodies. So he deserves the 1 seed.
I think SV Date's only chance of withstanding an upset is that the entire White House Correspondents Association votes for him.
And that can happen. It can happen.
As we saw in the interview, that seems like people who know him best are certainly most likely to vote for him in this particular tournament. If you go to the 512 seed, Joy Reid, perennial contender, she's back again. You saw a clip of her last week, but she's facing off against Ben Smith. And I'm not sure how he keeps sneaking in. But
it's Smug's personal animus.
Is that what's going on
It's
here?
not personal animus. It's the truth. I think there's a lot of questions of people asking about when he went to the New York Times, did he have the right kind of disclosures about maybe the equity stake that he had in BuzzFeed, which, as we all know, is like on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. They just put out a note about can they be a growing concern. But good for Ben Smith. He cashed out his equity ahead of everyone who he hired. That's a smart move if you're just trying to like cash in and kill the youth. And that's kind of like the move that he's for, allegedly, a lot of people are saying.
Going to be tough to beat Joy Reid, though, right, fellas?
He's a good friend of Ashbrook.
It is going to be tough to beat Joy Reid. I feel like this is a one-sided matchup. Joy's going to win.
No question about it. Aaron Rupar, the number 4 seed. Of course, he had a lot of relevance here because he lives in Minneapolis or St. Paul. So there's an awful lot of journos that relied on his on-the-ground left-wing reporting. When it came to ice, he's going to face off against Matt Iglesias in the 4-13 matchup. If you move south, you go to Sam Stein of the Bulwark. He's going to go against Radio Free Tom Nichols, somebody we haven't heard about a lot in the King of the Hill. But again, Iran, he comes to the fore, makes the tournament, fellas.
Yeah, I think Nichols obviously has the history in King of the Hill, and that's not nothing. However, Sam Stein has a body of work for left-wing journalism that cannot be ignored. I think Sam wins this round.
I think Tom Nichols is one of those bubble teams that just makes a deep run into their conference tournament, and that's how you get into an 11 seed for a guy like that.
All right. Well, Hassan Piker has made his first showing in Hack Madness. Well-deserved. Been a bubble team the last few years. Got himself in this year. He's facing off against Sarah Longwell.
This is a beautiful diagnosis of the modern media landscape when it comes to the left, because you've got Hassan Piker rightfully as a 3 on a 1 seed. He is essentially the tip of the spear when it comes to the left. He shows up at like the Mamdani victory party. You see every serious elected Democrats going on this guy's streamer show on Twitch. This is a guy I want to remind everybody here. This is a fact. He said America deserved 9/11, and now you have elected Democrats going on his show. And I'm not talking about some council member is showing. No, these are Senate candidates that show up on this guy's show because that's where the party is. And our Ruthless is so great because we diagnose things as they are. He is the vanguard of the modern left media.
I love where the party at. 9/11's an inside job. There we go.
I do think he has the strength here. I think that he is the tone setter on the left, and everything that Longwell and the Bulwark are trying to do is copying off of what Piker is doing.
It's
like the old versus the new.
Right.
Yeah, it's a 3-14 that's richly matched up that way. Julia Ioffe, you didn't hear about her a lot. If you jump on her Twitter account and just scan around, you're going to see the insanity that she's up to. But she's up against Rick Wilson, who has lost his damn mind and has for a lot of years. I think that's an interesting 7-10 matchup. But if you close out that bracket at the bottom, Oliver Darcy, former CNN, now just sort of in the media critique world. He's a number 2 seed this year. And if you've looked at anything that it is that he has written in terms of media critiques, bonkers to the point of paranoid schizophrenia.
So I want to say that, a lot of people will be like, Oliver Darcy is a number 2 seed. What the hell? I think this is an indictment on the modern left's media landscape. He has some stupid little Substack, whatever it's called. What's it called? It's like the Power or some shit like that. It's some ridiculous name, but it's being hyped up and propped up by other people on the left. They're essentially now seeing that no one cares about their views, right? They're all hopping, like NBC dipped on MSNBC. That fell apart. So now they're all jumping to Substacks and trying to hype each other up of being like, yeah, we're worth a subscription. I think he's a paper tiger. I don't expect him to go very far.
I think he gets through Kyle Cheney at the 15 seed, but we'll see where it goes from there. If you want to switch on out to the fake news division, always a tough bunch of matchups. Recall that Abby Phillip was our number 1 overall seed. She's facing off against Chris Hayes, real favorite of the program.
And I love that Chris Hayes got a 16 seed because I can think of no person who would hate that fact more than Chris Hayes. He thinks he deserves better.
He does. He wants to be up in that. And remember, we used to take shots at the program from time to time. Well, it turns out nobody hears what it is that he's taking shots at these days.
Where are you now, Chris?
His seeding has fallen from a 2 and a 3, now all the way down to 16, in large part because, hey, we can't hear you, Chris. If you go down to the 8-9 matchup, it's Jim Acosta, a blast from the past, a somebody who has won this tournament, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day, but he's now an 8 seed because fired is Substack. I think the only reason
fired, that's tough.
Yeah, I think the only reason he's in this is because he has done things like create AI reinterpretations of people who are killed by high school gunfire.
Yeah, look, he's facing off against Lawrence O'Donnell, another Democrat press secretary turned media personality. And I don't think that
Tough
Lawrence
matchup.
is going to be able to do what it's required.
You think
here.
Acosta
I
gets through
think
here?
Acosta's brand and everything he's built up over the, with the insanity over the last few years, I think that gets him through to the second round.
Interesting take. All right, so the 5-12, rich for an upset, but I don't think so in this case. The Potato, a former champion of Hack Madness, Brian Stelter of CNN. He's gone, he's back, he's gone, he's back. Back at CNN, he's got a 5 seed here in this year's tournament facing off against Yamiche Elsendor.
I love this. Brian Stelter, he's just a pig who loves punishment. Like, they throw him out. They're like, you suck ass. Get the hell out of here. And then they hire him back. And if I had to guess, I don't have any proof of this, they probably hire him back for like half the amount of money. He still takes it. You know what I mean? Like, bro, he's got no pride.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is usually when there's a sinking ship, the rats get off. It's very rare for a rat to come back on.
Like, you really got to be a talentless hack to be like, just treat me like shit, whip me like a pig and bring me back.
But let's be honest, that's what it takes to win. And if you're facing off against Yamiche Elsendor, you're going to need that sort of attitude.
Just a humiliated pig, bro.
That's probably the meanest breakdown I've ever heard anybody do.
He has no pride.
I'm sorry to disrupt the occasion. I will get back to thing. Wow. Chuck. Okay. 4-13. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Feinberg at the 4 seed facing off against Will Summer. 6-11, Fred Pleitgen. I don't know this guy from The Man on the Moon, but a big 6 seed this time around. He's facing off against Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah, so this is the CNN guy who is behind the scenes in Iran, covering the war from the ground in Iran, and a lot of conservatives are concerned about what
this is the
he's
cat
saying. Right.
This is the cat who's basically this is the Republican Guard's point of view on
Wait,
the
is he the guy
war.
who was like, it's bad that we killed like the leader who
Yes.
executed
Got it.
30,000
Thanks for the
protesters?
reminder.
And so if this guy has any shortcoming in the first round, it's that he's not a household name facing off against Mika Brzezinski. And I think Mika's going to win this
If
round.
I can be honest, like if you're trying to be like actually executing 30 to 40,000 civilians is good, that should get you a 6 seed.
It should, but this tournament shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know what I mean?
you never
Like
know.
this is like
Well, the voters will decide.
the voters decide.
And also a point of history, Mika's father was involved in
Wow, bro.
in the toppling in Iran.
So there you have it, the first round of the Hack Madness tournament. More meaning than you would ever expect.
Amazing,
the committee knew
dude.
what they were doing here. The committee knew exactly what they were doing.
I'm trying
That's
to keep
phenomenal.
a pace going, but this is going. This is as good as it gets. This might be our best bracket ever. If you move down to the 3-14, Gabe Sherman against Ashley Parker over at the Atlantic, former of the Washington Post. An interesting matchup there. The 7-10, David Folkenflick. This is somebody that I don't
Again-
know personally,
yeah,
but he's
again,
facing off against a household name in Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, Folkenflick, not a household name, but a reporter at NPR. Anybody who's seen his stuff, and there are a lot of people who have, probably think it's very biased. And so I think that he's actually going to make a run against Cooper. I ultimately think Anderson Cooper wins this first round.
Also, it's critical that we have folks like Ashbrook to represent the over 90 age crowd who still listens to NPR to like inform us on these things.
Representation's important to the committee and everybody else.
Sure is.
To finish off the fake news bracket, the number 2 seed, perennial powerhouse, somebody who's been a topic of conversation here on the Variety program in the last week, Natasha Bertrand.
Yep.
She's going to face off against Jane Mayer, one of the biggest hacks of all time. Normally, this would be a real battle, but I think Natasha has distinguished herself in a way that's given her that 2 seed.
Every once in a while in these bracket matchups, you see somebody looking in the mirror. And in this case, Natasha Bertrand looks in the mirror and she sees a very, very old version of herself, and that's Jane Mayer. And what I think will happen here is that Natasha Bertrand wins because youth tends to win in these sorts of matchups.
A lot of age attacks.
I'm going to add something, but I don't want to get in trouble, so we can move on.
Okay, well, moving on. The last but not least, the establishment division, and typically a very formidable crew that comes out of the establishment. We discussed the number 1 seed, Stephen Colbert. Who is he matching up with? ABC's Mary Bruce.
No brainer. This 1 seed's going to take the 16 all day.
No question. But then whoever wins that matchup is going to have to face last year's champion who slipped from a 1 to an 8 in CBS's Margaret Brennan, who's facing off against Jonathan Carlin in an 8-9 matchup.
So I have to compliment that, like, the seeding is very fair here, where Margaret Brennan went from, like, the libs thought that she was the tip of the spear to Republicans turned her into a dunking contest, where it was like, okay, JD, roll up and dunk on her, and we're going to have clips all over the internet. And Marco, show up and dunk on her, and we're going to have clips all over the internet. And that's why she has fallen to an 8 seed.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. If you move down the bracket, Caitlin Collins of CNN earns a 5 seed this year. I believe it's her highest seed. She's facing off against King of the Hill champion Bill Crystal, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is any surprise, but I think Caitlin Collins has it here. I mean, Bill has a body of work on being a neocon who's now against the Iran war, but he's really a one-note sort of player in Hack Madness, and she's got a much wider repertoire, someone who could work it on the inside or hit it from deep range.
Another newcomer to the bracket, Ed O'Keefe of CBS. Surprised to see him show up this year, but he's facing off against Everett Klein in a 4-13 matchup.
What's your read on this, Ashbrook?
I'm looking for Klein to win here. I think he's
you
don't
more think Ed O'Keefe's the bigger hack here? I think Ed O'Keefe's a bit of a troublemaker.
I think more people know Ezra Klein's name, and therefore that's who they're going to pick.
Philip Bump, somebody who was a Washington Post casualty. I'm not sure if he found himself over to CNN or if he just has his own Substack page, but I do see his Twitter account, and boy, oh boy, it is enough to give you paranoid schizophrenia. He's a 6 seed this year, and he's facing off against the establishment of all establishments, former White House press secretary turned ABC host, George Stephanopoulos.
I think he's overrated. He's overrated as shit. This guy's like, he's a daddy's boy.
Who, Bump or Stephanopoulos?
Bump. Oh. He had family money. He's never had talent. And like the WAPO, when they were able to have like a fat margin and have losers around, could keep him employed. But then, like, Bezos is like, I'm on a yacht and I'm seeing you guys are just like losing all my money. Get rid of the biggest losers. And so Bump's out the door. So he has zero talent. I think the selection committee should have flipped those. I think Stephanopoulos is more of a 6 seed and Bump's an 11.
Oh, so you see an upset.
Yeah. I mean, Bump's a talentless loser.
Yeah, listen, I also see an upset here, guys. Bump's limited notoriety, I think, will make him come up short against Dick Gebhardt and Bill Clinton's press secretary, who's now doing work for ABC. So I just don't think, I think he's worked very hard.
Wait, Stephanopoulos was a Gebhardt guy? Are you for real? Dude, I thought he was just like a Clinton guy from the beginning. He's that long in the game?
We need, honestly, the resume we can do.
He's been around quite a while. He's put in a lot. I mean, he's a
Democrat guy.
He's a Democrat.
Dude, that's old as shit.
But the thing is, he has put in a lot of honest day's work on behalf of the left, and Philip Bump just hasn't reached that sort of notoriety. I mean, he's kind of tried, but it just hasn't worked out for him.
And like, as a very quick aside, I know a lot of people, agree or disagree with me when I say I respect the boomers and think they're the most, important generation in history. That's the institutional knowledge. When you've got extremely old people here. I didn't know he was a Gebhardt guy. Thank you, Ashbrook.
Heavy age stuff going on. We move down the bracket, and this is one I'm particularly fond of. Aaron Blake is a 3 seed against Sahil Kapoor. Now, these are two people that we've talked about on the program. I urged 4 years ago, when I felt like the first 3 years of Hack Madness were heavily on the cable TV side, to take a look at print and look at a body of work to the consistency of the insanity of a take on a day-to-day basis. Who's putting in the day-to-day? Not enough to show up for 7 minutes on television in prime time. What are you doing in that front page of the newspaper, proclaiming to be objective, but then inserting your opinion throughout? Aaron Blake is my version of this exact story. I'm glad that he has the 3 seed. He was, of course, like everyone else, fired from the Washington Post.
Yep.
and he made his way over to CNN. I urge everyone, before you vote on the Sahil Kapoor, take a look at the Twitter feed of Aaron Blake. Take a look at the body of work since he's been at CNN. I can assure you that of 65 teams in this field, you are not going to find anyone who is more consistently reliable and sane than Aaron Blake.
So I'm going to have to take the other side of this one. So Sahil Kapoor is a piece of garbage. And whenever I'm in the Capitol, he gives me a dirty look because he's mad at me. And he blocked me on Twitter because I held him accountable.
Do you feel like it's Indian violence?
No, I think Sahil Kapoor is a soft dude who's mad. He's mad because I always would call him out when he's being a hack. He's like, he will sit there and Democrats will be like, no, we should let like illegal rapists run amok and kill Americans. And he's cool with that. And then he will run up to any Republican he finds, stick his arm in the elevator, and try to put them on the spot. He thinks his job. He's more committed than any super PAC for the left of trying to attack elected Republicans. He sits in the Capitol all day long, and if you walk past him, he gives you a dirty look. If you're a respectable individual, he's mad about it.
Well, at least he shows up.
I think he should be in jail. I don't think
he shows up. Aaron Blake sits.
You don't just vote for Sahil Kapoor, lock him up.
Thumb on the scale.
Yeah, Aaron Blake sits 3 miles away and writes his nonsense.
Unblock me, Sahil, you coward.
Coward. All right, so round out the bracket, Jeremy Barr with a 7 seed, his first appearance in the tournament, facing off against a perennial powerhouse, David Frum in the 10 seed. And at the bottom of the bracket, listen, Jake Tapper is somebody you never want to ignore in a Hack Madness tournament. Right. But he's faced off against a really tough 15 seed this year, and Peter Baker of the New York Times.
That's an insane matchup. Baker's underrated. Him and his deranged wife, in my opinion. There are a couple of really crazy people dropping insane takes in a position of power. Baker's at the New York Times dropping these takes. But I want to say, in my opinion, so Jake Tapper used to be famous for he would DM you when he was mad about some shit. If you're like, Tapper, that's a bad take. If you tweeted out that like Jake Tapper had a bad take on CNN, within 30 seconds, your inbox is like, how dare you say this shit? Because Tapper was always mad. He's kind of mellowed on that. Yeah. Maybe his heart's not in the game.
Well, I think he got overflowed.
What are your thoughts on this, Ashbrook?
No, I don't watch your show.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, either way, I will say perennial powerhouse and richly deserved 2 seed. Fellas, that's the tournament. You look back through this bracket, I'm just going to ask you.
It feels like 65 powerhouse.
I don't know that we've had a more. Now, is it unconventional? Sure. Are there names that you're accustomed to seeing here that aren't here? No question. I would say that the demise of the liberal media is probably more responsible for that than the selection committee in many ways. But you look across this, anything that you're seeing that pops out of you that you think is going to be a contender here?
My one point of advice to folks is the media landscape is shifting by the day, by the hour, by the minute. I think, huge shout out to Ruthless for recognizing the media landscape has changed, especially on the left, where you've got these crazy Looney Tunes people like Hassan Piker who are having like Gavin Newsom's going to show up on his.
Yeah.
This is it. Hassan Piker's an individual who said America deserved 9/11, and you're having folks like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, driving a news.
I do think there's a fair amount of recency bias in the voting.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the reason why Margaret Brennan was so successful in 2025, because she's right on the heels of her ridiculous performance.
It does reflect, listen, you win year in, you don't win. Duke doesn't win every year because of the 1992 basketball team.
I think what I'm trying to say is that Stephen Colbert may do better this year than
interesting
people expect.
Because
he's been sort of at the center of a lot of conversation online.
Fascinating. Number 1 seed, he's got an easier pass than most, although he has to go through a defending champion in the second round.
I have 2 I'm looking at here. I look at this 4 versus 13, Andrew Feinberg and Will Sommer from the fake news division.
Yep.
And Will Sommer kind of strikes me as like a Miami of Ohio.
Oh.
Like a really good record, mid-major team that gets underseeded versus what they've actually produced on the court.
Yeah.
I'm looking for an upset there. I also have to say, Holmes, I agree with you about Philip Bump. A lot of people are not familiar with his work. I see him more as like a Gonzaga. He plays out on the West Coast, so people aren't familiar with his game. They don't see him in the prime time every single night. But if you look into it, he produces.
That's going to be something. I think there's going to be something of a new guard here. Heather Cox Richardson is one that catches my eye. That's somebody who is legitimately insane. Now, if you look at that 5-12 matchup, Joe Scarborough, he has never lost a first-round matchup in Hack Madness, ever. To this year, might be the first year to see that.
I also want to say huge credit to the selection committee, all the thought we put into this. News is like recently breaking as we're putting this together that Joe Amica's show is getting an hour cut from it.
Wow, interesting.
Interesting.
So like
interesting.
That's why he's a 12 seed, folks.
Yeah. And
they are clipping his wings.
The foresight of the selection committee to downseed somebody who evidently MS now has now come to the conclusion after the selection committee. Same thing, down it goes.
Huge.
Fascinating stuff. So just remember, you want to participate in all of this, you got to go to ruthlesspodcast.com, navigate your way to the March or Hack Madness tournament, select yourself, and voting for the play-in game. That's a Newsy Liza matchup, something that we've talked about. I know all of you are interested in. That's going to go live over the weekend as the precursor, the play-in to the real tournament, which begins next week right there in your X account, right, Smug?
That's right. By the time you see this, voting will be live on X at Comfortably Smug for that play-in game. And on Monday, that's when we start voting for the first round, and that's going to decide it. But you have to go right now to ruthlesspodcast.com, fill out your brackets. I mean, we love seeing the photos that folks sent from all across this country.
Oh my God, it's so
I
good.
filled out my bracket. We've got our brackets going on in our office. It's a wonderful tradition. That's it.
We absolutely love it. It's the best time of the year. This has been a tradition unlike any other.
Unlike any other.
Unlike any other here on the Ruthless Variety program. We love every single second of it. You got to go to ruthlesspodcast.com, navigate your way to that Hack Madness, fill out your bracket, participate online on Comfortably Smug's X account to vote your way into who advances on this bad boy. We all have our favorites, and we look forward to your comments as well on our analysis on all of this. Offer your own analysis if you must, and we might get back to you the very next episode with some of the very hottest takes. With that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of a show. Gentlemen, remember, James Talarico loves the meat. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.